All right, let's talk about one of the biggest game changers in AI right now, synthetic data. Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking about fake data. And it turns out this high quality, realistic fake data is becoming the secret sauce for building the next wave of artificial intelligence. But before we get into the how, let's start with the why. The entire AI revolution we're living through has been built on one thing: massive, massive amounts of data. So, what happens when we just run out? Or what if the data we have is just too risky to use? Well, that question isn't hypothetical. It's leading us straight into a huge problem. AI is hitting a data wall. These incredible models that are changing our world have this insatiable appetite for information, and we are really starting to hit a major bottleneck. So what's the deal with this data wall? Well, it's a few things, really. First, the most valuable data, stuff like your medical records or bank transactions, is, for very good reasons, locked down by privacy laws. Plus, collecting new data is incredibly slow and super expensive. And maybe worst of all, real-world data is often filled with all sorts of biases from the past. And for those really rare once-in-a-million events, the data you need to train an AI might not even exist. That, right there, is the data wall.
Okay, so how do we get around this thing? The solution is surprisingly elegant, and it's what we're here to talk about: synthetic data. It's this amazing approach that promises to get us past that data wall, safely and effectively.
So what is this stuff exactly? Well, synthetic data is information that's been artificially cooked up by an algorithm. Now, here's the magic part. It perfectly mimics all the trends, the patterns, and the statistical quirks of real data, but, and this is crucial, it contains absolutely zero actual, real-world, private information. It looks and feels just like the real thing, but it's brand new. Now, you might be thinking, hey, isn't this just anonymized data? Nope, not at all. And it's a really important difference. Anonymization takes real data and just tries to scrub off the names and identifiers. The problem is it can be vulnerable to what are called linkage attacks, where someone can piece together little clues to figure out who the data is about. Synthetic data, since it's built from scratch, that risk is just gone. And make no mistake, this isn't some niche, futuristic concept. It's happening right now, and it's exploding. Just look at these projections from the research firm Gartner. Right now, in 2024, it's about 20% of the data used for training AI. But look at where it's headed. Yep, you're seeing that right. By 2028, a staggering 80% of all data used for AI training is expected to be synthetic. This isn't just a small shift. It's a massive, fundamental transformation in how AI is going to be built from now on. Okay, so that all sounds pretty amazing in theory, right? But where is this tech actually being used today, out in the real world? Let's dive into some examples that show just how powerful this really is. First up, self-driving cars. Think about it. You can't just drive a car around for 1 billion miles and hope you run into every possible dangerous situation. It's just not practical. So instead, developers create millions of synthetic scenarios. It's basically a flight simulator for the car's AI. They can train it over and over on rare but critical events, like a child suddenly running into the street. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's infinitely safer. Or how about finance? Here, it's all about security and privacy. Huge banks like JP and American Express are generating synthetic transaction data. This lets them train their fraud detection AI on what criminal behavior looks like, finding new patterns, all without ever needing to look at a single real customer's private financial info. And this one might be the biggest deal of all: healthcare. Strict privacy laws like HIPAA are absolutely essential, but they can sometimes slow down medical research. So what are researchers doing? They're creating synthetic patient records. This allows them to share data freely, develop incredible diagnostic AI to spot diseases earlier, and speed up medical breakthroughs, all while completely protecting every patient's privacy. It's a total game changer. So how is this stuff actually made? Well, it's not a one-size-fits-all process. You use different kinds of generative AI for different kinds of data. For things like spreadsheets, you might use models called GANs to learn the hidden patterns. For text and documents, you'd use a large language model, an LLM. And for images and video, you use other models that can create photorealistic visuals completely from scratch. But okay, let's get real for a second. This isn't some magic wand. Synthetic data is an absolutely incredible tool, but it comes with its own set of challenges that you have to be really smart about. Even a hero has a weak spot. There are really three main risks to watch out for. First is quality control. It's this delicate balancing act between making the data realistic enough to be useful while making sure it stays 100% private. Second, there's a risk called overfitting, where the AI model might accidentally just memorize and spit out a copy of a real record it saw. And third, there's this really bizarre and fascinating problem called model collapse.
So what on earth is model collapse? Well, it's what can happen when an AI gets trained on too much data that was made by another AI. It's almost like it's been in an echo chamber for too long. It starts to lose its grip on reality, and its answers get weirder and weirder. This quote from an MIT study just captures it perfectly. An AI might start talking about jackrabbits with different colored tails when you ask it about architecture. It's a sign that the AI is literally starting to forget what the real world looks like.
Now, the good news is this is a solvable problem. Experts are all over this. The key is to always anchor the creation process in real, high-quality data. And you have to track where all your data comes from, its provenance, so you don't accidentally create these strange self-feeding loops where the AI just learns from itself.
So what does this all mean for the future? Well, it's pretty clear that synthetic data isn't just another clever tool in the toolbox. It's actually becoming a brand new foundation for how we build artificial intelligence safely and responsibly.
For any company or team looking to actually use this, there's a pretty clear playbook. You start by figuring out exactly what you're trying to achieve. Then you generate the data and test it. The most important steps are validation. Is this data actually useful and is it safe? And governance, which just means you document everything so that the whole process is transparent and trustworthy. And this really brings us right back to where we started. In a world where we need our AI to be incredibly powerful, but also incredibly private and secure, this quote just says it all. The fake data we're creating, it might just be the real hero of this story.
And I just want to leave you with this one final thought. With synthetic data, we now have the power to actually curate and design the reality that our AIs learn from. So the biggest question for all of us becomes, if we get to create the world that AI sees, what kind of world should we show it? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.